Charlie, what is that on your face?
Well, I think we should cover that and some other topics in episode 5. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 5 of the Kingsgrove Sports Podcast. Once again with me is Stuart.
Hello.
Hello, and we have a new face, but before I introduce you, I'm going to hand over to our team show producer. Some say his dulcet tones are the reason they listen to our podcast, and others say that he presses all the right buttons. Producer Nick.
Nobody actually says any of that stuff, though. Nobody really says that.
Oh, I don't know. My wife does. She likes the sound of your voice. Maybe that's why we're planning a trip to America next year.
Oh, yeah. No, I do get that a lot, man. I've got friends who seem to be attracted to my voice, and it's for no other reason than they're just American. It's a novelty.
Well, could be that.
Fair enough.
I never got that when I did when I first came over from England. Anyway, we have a new face with us.
Hello.
We have a new voice with us for those that are listening, not watching.
Yes.
This is Andrew Wilkinson. Andrew, tell us a bit about yourself, how you ended up at Kingsgrove Sports and your cricket background.
Yeah, so I've been working at Kingsgrove Sports for 8 years. I started out at the Artarmon store, where I was working on the floor, and I'm now managing the place, and I'm also the inventory manager for football and other sports.
Excellent. So we'll get plenty of input from Andrew over the course of the podcast series, especially when it comes to football.
Yeah.
I still refuse to say soccer, but we'll get over that at some point.
It is soccer.
Why not, man? That's what it's called.
Oh, well, it came from association football, so it's always going to be football to me. But that's a different topic for
Man,
another
it's so funny
day.
you say. I was just reading about that yesterday because I was like, where did the word soccer come from? And it comes from association football, which is an English term, right? Didn't they actually invent the word soccer? You have no one but yourself to blame, Charlie.
Oh, why would you do this on a public forum that's going out to the whole world, embarrass my argument? No, I always use the F word, not the S word. Anyway.
Yeah, can we get that on the
think it's-
socials? Soccer or football?
Before we hook into the topics, just a quick reminder of how to contact us. Facebook at Kingsgrove Sports Centre, Twitter at Kingsgrove Sport. Must be singular, not plural. Twitter can't handle that extra character.
No.
And Instagram at Kingsgrove Sports. And use that hashtag KSC Podcast. Give us some suggestions about what to talk about and anything you want to get in touch about.
Good idea.
So with that in mind, topic number 1.
Yeah.
Cricket.
Excellent.
Well, let's talk about current affairs with cricket. Obviously, last show we covered the review, so we probably don't need to cover that too much. The Australian women's team at the moment going well over in the T20 World Cup.
Very well, yes.
Let's talk a bit about that. Stu, you lead away with that one.
So obviously, yeah, the Aussie girls are on fire at the moment. They're 3 from 3. Had a good win over New Zealand yesterday, which meant they qualified for the semi-finals. So sort of job one done, I guess, for the girls. Alyssa Healy is batting very well at the moment, keeping well. She has won player of the match in all 3 of Australia's games so far, so doing a great job at the moment. So all things looking positive for Australia. They'll finish with a group game against India, which is coming up later in the week, I think, before they head into the semi-finals. So so far so good for the girls.
Do we think that Australia are the favourites for this tournament?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
A lot of confidence there. Why is that?
They win a lot of games.
Well, that helps.
And they score a lot of runs and take a lot of wickets. And I think, at least in the Australian setup, we pride ourselves on having a really good platform across the board, both men's and women's team. We probably invest a lot more than some of the more minnow countries.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, England, New Zealand, and India are also powerhouses in the women's game, but we've already accounted for New Zealand. So
in the group stage.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely a really strong team, really good players coming out of probably the Big Bash, which is the premier women's 2020 competition as well.
Mm-hmm.
Really strong team.
Fair enough. Do we realistically think that anyone can threaten Australia in the final? We're assuming that Australia will make the final.
Yeah, obviously, once you get into a final, they're always 50-50. Last T20 World Cup, the West Indies upset Australia, so it can be done. England are definitely one to look out for. 50 over World Cup winners. They've got a good squad. Hurt a little bit with injury with Catherine Brunton having to go home, but they've still got good players in there. Heather Knight, is a great batter, but also a very good captain.
Yep.
They've got good spinners, which is good for the conditions that they're playing in at the moment. So they've still got good batting, good bowling. So they're definitely probably the other main contender, I would have thought.
Yeah, look, obviously I'm slightly biased. I'm always going to support England over anyone else. Heather Knight is actually from the same part of the world as me. She's my one and only female international wicket with the most horrendous delivery I've ever bowled, a waist-high full toss that wasn't given as no ball, but anyway.
She doesn't remember that, it's okay.
I'm sure it doesn't give her nightmares. She's played much, much bigger games since then than, Bobby Tracy friendly. Ash Gardner, we were watching some of the coverage from the game as we record this yesterday, and some close-ups of the King Sport design. I thought that was pretty good coverage for us.
That was really
there.
cool to see. I was watching it with Bryden a bit in the shop, man. It was really cool to get to see that all that hard work. I mean, we spent the better part of a year, I think, designing all that new stuff and having Ash to kind of sit in and give her feedback, and that was just so really cool to see that stuff on TV.
Yeah,
now.
so Ash loves the gear, and she sat down with Nick and had some input into the design of it. So we were really happy that we got that sort of exposure, which was great. We have to probably thank Lisa Stalaker for that, but obviously we also have to thank Ash as well. She's in good form, so anytime she goes out to bat, she usually produces the goods. So we were really happy with that yesterday.
Yeah, it's great to see the King Sport brand getting a bit of worldwide coverage.
Yeah.
Hopefully you agree with us that it's very aesthetically pleasing, as well as the quality of the timber, and you can come into one of our stores and give it a go. So the girls are obviously going well. You probably couldn't say the same of the men's team at the moment. The one-day series with South Africa has been lost. They were by 2-1. It's a tough period, really, for Australian men's cricket.
It is.
And upcoming games, they've got a 2020 against South Africa. Now, I was listening to, look, I won't call it a rival podcast. We're probably not on the level of the BBC just yet. But I was listening.
Not far off, mate.
Not far off. We'll get there, especially with your help. I was listening to the Flintoff, Savage and Ping Pong Guy podcast, and I think Andrew Flintoff said that international 2020s should be abolished. But then how do you go about having a 2020 World Cup if you don't have international 2020s? What do you guys reckon on that?
Well, I agree with Freddie. And Shane Warne's brought it up before as well.
Mm-hmm.
Don't often agree with Shane, but on this point, I do. You sort of wonder, is there a point in playing these international T20 games? Is it better just to let T20 be the franchise game, and then every 4 years come together and play a World Cup, like they do in soccer?
Yeah.
I guess you'd sort of argue that they have friendly international games. Okay, yeah. So maybe leading into the World Cup, you could obviously maybe play some friendly international T20s. But I think that's a game sort of probably best served to be a franchise sort of.
I agree.
Cricket.
And if we were to get rid of the T20 World Cup, is there another, not necessarily a format, but is there another way of perhaps going about that next level of 2020 cricket?
Yeah, well, I sort of like the idea of the Champions League sort of format. You take your Premier Elite clubs out of that franchise system and you sort of play each other in a tournament to see who's the best. You still sort of get those top international players because they play at a lot of different teams over a lot of different comps, but you can still get the young guy who's come through a system and it's done really well, and you get just the best quality 2020 you can possibly get, supporting your favourite team the whole way through.
So you're suggesting like a winner or a top two from an IPL or a Caribbean Premier League or the English 2020 and the KFC Big Bash come together to make a Champions League, as you say.
Yeah, and they've done that before in the Champions Trophy, but it never seems to be as holistic, and 2020 competitions are growing every year. Feels like there's another one that some players going off to play, so you take a bigger pool there and you get a better quality competition.
I guess the only downfall with the Champions League style tournament is who plays for who.
Yeah.
Because you've got these guys that play for multiple teams. So who do they play with if one of their teams happens to both qualify for the tournament? How do they work out who they play for?
What does that then lend itself to a potential year-round competition? So, like for example, in football, in Premier League football. You'd have, let's say, Harry Kane, for example, plays for Tottenham. That's who he plays for. He doesn't then go at the next part of the year and play in China for Beijing United or someone like that.
I think the administrators would like that. I mean, I don't really want to see T20 cricket expanded much more than that.
Yeah, you sort of lose your grassroots appeal.
Otherwise, we lose sort of what cricket is. I know, like I said, the administrators want to go down that T20 path because that's what they think makes the money, but that's not what cricket is to me anyway.
Are we reaching a point then with 2020 cricket of saturation? Is there too much 2020 cricket?
I reckon we went past it a long time ago, to be fair.
Do you know what? I tend to agree with you, and in a way, I think it went the same way with one-day internationals. Now, there used to be a format in Australia of Test cricket, then the one-day tournament, like a round-robin, 3-team round-robin, and that sort of format worked. In England, it used to be that we'd have the one-day internationals leading up to a Test series between those two countries. What we're left with now, let's use England and Australia for the example, because of the Ashes and how big the Ashes is. They'll play each other in an Ashes series, and then there's a one-day series afterwards in the UK that no one cares about.
Yeah.
No one goes to watch. Whereas when it was in 2005, they had it as a lead up to the Ashes, and everyone's interested. Okay, there's a big build up to this series. Now that format of having the one days after the Test matches doesn't really work in England, in my opinion. However, it's what we're saying works really well over here in Australia by adding a third nation to that tournament.
Possibly. I mean, they used to run it where you'd probably play like the first 2 Test matches, maybe the first 2 or first 3 Test matches. You'd then go in and you'd play. One day you'd play the one day
in the middle
games in the middle, and then you'd finish off with the Melbourne and Sydney tests,
right? And
then there's probably even a test after that. So you probably played 2. You play the one day games, and then you play test matches after that.
Okay,
yeah. And then they got rid of that, and then they just played the test matches, and then they played the one day games afterwards.
Yep.
It's a bit. I prefer probably playing the one day games first, like you said, because otherwise it tends to be a bit of an afterthought. So it's better probably that they're first, get a bit of cricket on, lead into the test matches.
Yeah, I mean, in a way they've tried to do that. They've got a few one-dayers here with Australia versus South Africa, but then between the one-dayers and the test matches, they go back to the 2020.
Yeah. So
they've got 3 2020s against India in the next week or so. India coming to Australia in the one-day formats, in the pajama cricket. You know, it's a lottery there. They're going to play well wherever they are in the world because it's just their style of cricket. Their one-day cricket is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Test matches, historically, India have struggled in Australia. Many teams have struggled in Australia, and vice versa. Australia, England have historically struggled on the subcontinent. Why do we think that is? Is it purely because of spin versus pace? Conditions, what do we reckon? And how can we go about winning away from home?
Yeah, a lot said about Australia not being able to play spin bowling, but the conditions are much, much different as well. You remember Pete Hanscom with a towel on his head in Sri Lanka. Even though it gets hot out here and we still play in that heat, you don't get that sort of crushing humidity and that draining humidity. So the conditions there obviously play a part. And then, the sort of differences between spin and pace that you find between the subcontinent are also something we're not used to always.
Isn't it interesting, though, that Australia's produced arguably the finest spin bowler of all time in Shane Warne, yet there's not too many behind him.
No,
anywhere near that quality.
So we tend to, we don't produce many spin bowlers, but we do have a lot of fast bowlers. Wherever you go in the subcontinent, they produce a lot of spin bowlers, but you're not generally producing the world class fast bowler. Yeah. So it's just the conditions that you brought up with, the conditions in your home country. How are you going to be a better cricketer? What are you brought up to do? And in the subcontinent, you're probably more likely to try and spin the ball than having to run in a bowl 140 Ks. It's a bit better. I mean, India's fast bowling lineup at the moment is very good.
Yeah,
they've got sort of four really good fast bowlers at the moment, which is going to help them out here.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to see how they go in these conditions. This is probably India's best chance to win a series in Australia. Our batting is obviously, an issue. Our bowling is what's going to keep us into these games. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go. And then, India's bowling out here, how they perform on our wickets is going to be a key.
So how do we think that they're going to perform? Obviously, you've got the usual suspect in Virat Kohli with the bat. You mentioned their fast bowling stocks are pretty good. Ishant Sharma has improved immeasurably in the last 5 years or so. How do we think they're going to go?
I think they're going to go all right.
Yeah.
I'm predicting, fingers crossed, everything crossed that we're going to win 2-1.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hope in that.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to go well. It will come down to, I think, how well Kohli does play.
Mm-hmm.
He is a big key for them in terms of then the other guys being able to not have as much pressure on them and being able to then, either score runs. Because I think if Kohli scores runs, then they're probably a little bit more relaxed that they've got some runs on the board and they can then play with a little bit less pressure. I'd say if he's not scoring runs and the other guys are relied on to get runs, that could be an issue for them. So obviously Kohli's a big wicket
He's
for us.
huge. I think it'd be dangerous to focus purely on Kohli though when you've got Pujara in there, for example, who can score many, many runs.
Yeah.
And their bowling stocks like Ishant Sharma, Mohammad Shami, Ravi Ashwin, who can also swing a bat just quietly as well. You can't really concentrate just on Kohli, I don't think, although he will be a huge factor. What do you reckon?
I think their preparation is going to be a huge key. A lot, and that's the same for any touring team. We did a lot better when we went to India last because we spent, I think, a month in the UAE just playing spin. And even just the last tour for India gone when they were in England, Kohli not scored very many runs at all.
England won 4-1, by the way. Just put that in.
Kohli hadn't scored that many runs at all, but went and played county cricket. I don't think he turned up in county, but he did the first test match. So that preparation that he took in there helped him a lot. So maybe these 2020s will give him an extra run in Australia. Might help them perform a little bit better. They'll get used to those conditions a little bit faster.
Yeah, but having said that, if it's a 2020, he's not going to be out. It's not the same as preparing for a test match. Now, preparation is obviously key because otherwise conditions will take you by surprise.
Yeah.
Now, the one time that England did win the Ashes over here in recent memory, their preparation was excellent. They had tour games, they had Prime Minister's 11 games, and they really, really focused on what they were doing.
Yeah, so they don't have that anymore because they don't tour for as long.
Yeah,
the tour's a lot more compact. They don't have as many tour games, and that's basically because in recent times the home team weren't giving the opposition sort of quality players to play against.
Yeah,
they were picking the under-19 team basically, or it was very much a second 11 team. It wasn't like when the olden days when the touring team would come out and they play New South Wales, and you'd basically be trying to play the strongest New South Wales team, or Victoria, or Western Australia, whoever it was, or when Australia were over playing the counties, they were playing the strongest county team, and like you hear some stories where some county teams have beaten the touring team.
Yeah.
Now it's just they don't want to do that because they don't want to give them the preparation.
Yeah, which is, in my opinion, not conducive to giving you the best possible Test cricket.
No, but it's about you winning 4-1 rather than drawing 2-2 or something. Because that series, India were a lot closer than that 4-1 scoreline. They just didn't win the big moments.
Correct. That 4-1 did flatter England, but it's not often that England win by a convincing margin. So I just thought I had to drop that in there. But, now, 4 tests in this series for this summer against India. What are your feelings on that? Obviously, a 5-test summer is preferable, but sometimes they do split it up. In this case, we got 4 tests against India and then 2 tests against Sri Lanka. Would you prefer to see 3 and 3, or a 5-test series and not bother with the second series, or even a 6-test series?
Well, 6 would be nice, but we haven't traditionally played 6 test matches here. I mean, we probably could because for instance, like we're not playing in Hobart this time round, and I'm not sure how well India would go in Hobart. I think their bowlers will probably go pretty well, so maybe our batting line doesn't want to play in Hobart against them. 4 tests is good. 4 tests are better than 3. It often will come down to obviously dollars and cents and who's going to draw more people in. Plus also the schedule, the future tours program, whatever they call it. We have to play Sri Lanka at some time at home.
Yeah, of course.
So this might be the only time that it fits in. So of course I'd probably rather play more than 2 tests against Sri Lanka. 3 tests would be better.
Yeah,
but they've made the minimum now only 2, so it's 2.
It's either going to be a 1-1 or a 2-0 or even a 1-0 if there's
possibly,
a draw in there. Interesting to note that those two tests in Sri Lanka, I'd never seen Test cricket played in Australia that late. So the first test against Sri Lanka is January the 24th to the 28th at the Gabba. That's a day-night game.
Yep.
And then February the 1st to the 5th. So Test cricket in February in Australia at Manuka Oval.
Yeah, it should be good.
Yeah.
It should be a long summer, lots of cricket, lots of stuff to watch. The weather always changes a little bit there. It's quite hot, sort of early February.
Thunderstorm season.
And thunderstorm season as well. I don't know how Canberra's going to handle that. But should be good conditions for the day-night test.
Yeah.
And that should hopefully be a good challenge there.
And the other thing that we're going to get as well in the India series, the second test is at the brand new Perth Stadium. Got the first look at it the other day in the one day. It looks like a great facility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks good. The wicket was challenging to bat on, but by all reports it is fairly pacey, which is good.
The spirit of the whacker is alive.
Spirit of the whacker. You want it to try and be a little bit like that. You know, playing in Perth, that gives us as a home side a good advantage. Not many sides like going over and playing on the fast bouncy wicket.
No,
except for the West Indies in the 1980s.
And probably South Africa these days as well.
Possibly, South Africa. I mean, South Africa have one there. I mean, again, South Africa's got a fantastic bowling lineup. So yeah, if they can play on a good, fast, bouncy track, as they proved in that one day game, it's good for bowling. But yeah, it's nice to have. You always want to have different conditions going around. You don't want every pitch to be the same. So if Perth can get back to that nice, fast, bouncy wicket, that will be that'll be good for cricket.
Yeah, well, it certainly separates it from the MCG, which has been pretty dead the last few seasons.
Yeah,
unfortunately, but it gives us a good chance to get up, maybe 1-0 or 2-0 in the series straight away and put India on the back foot, because their best chance is probably going to be Adelaide or the SCG.
Yeah,
depending on how they come over and start the series off.
Little disappointed that Adelaide is only a day test match, not a day-night test match.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, any time you play the Adelaide is good, so a traditional day test match, is obviously going to be fantastic. But the Adelaide has over the last few years got a very good reputation now, putting on this day-night test match. It's a bit of an event. It does make for some interesting cricket because there is, when you get to that twilight sort of time and night time, it does start to move around a bit. It makes it a bit interesting.
Yeah,
adds another element to the game, doesn't it?
Adds another element. The fact that India have just blatantly ruled it out is a bit, sort of a bit disappointing. But
yeah, I mean that's sort of that's disappointing. It's much in the way that they were the only country that didn't want to use DRS when it first came out for LBWs, and then ironically it came back to bite them when Stuart Broad took a hat trick and Harbhajan Singh got fired first ball for one that he absolutely smashed into his pads. So, I suppose there's an element of karma in there.
Possibly, but, yeah. So.
Now, we think that India are going to go well. We've mentioned that. Obviously, Kohli is key. If they do go well, are there going to be accusations of, or is the reason going to be bandied around that, we're missing Steve Smith and Dave Warner, so that's the only reason that India are going to beat us, or is it going to be because they have actually improved?
I think it'll be a bit of both, maybe depending on what media outlet you're getting your information from.
Fake news.
It'll be about, like, if we don't play well, and obviously it's going to be our batting that's going to be the issue. If that's bad, then they will focus on Steve Smith and Dave Warner because they're not there, and they have been our two best players over recent times.
But as things stand, they are going to miss the series.
Correct.
If Australia were to lose that first test, do you think the media are going to clamour for their inclusion?
Yes, because it's a story.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do it because it's like, oh no, we need you back. It's more about, I think that'll just be a story that they can push, and it'll be a bit of a distraction. It should just be, no, look, they're out. They've come to terms with that. They're happy with that. They're playing grade cricket. By all reports, are doing some fantastic stuff in grade cricket about engaging with the community. They're enjoying themselves playing grade cricket. So I'd just leave it at that. I'd focus on the guys that are going to be in the team, and we need to get behind, as the cricketing public, the media. Let's get behind them.
Totally agree.
And back them in. Justin Langer will do a good job. It is going to take a little bit of time. But you take a positive spin out of this, it will give some guys the opportunity to play Test cricket.
Yeah.
gives them so I was getting some experience. So in the long run, it may actually boost our cricket because they will get better and they will improve.
Yeah,
and we'll have better cricketers all round.
I totally agree with it. I think the media clamouring for players that aren't involved and that can't be involved is ridiculous times. You may remember a few years ago when Shane Warne retired, and there was a massive campaign to bring
him
Warne
back,
and stuff like that. Richie Benner actually made me laugh in that because they asked him about what do you think about getting Shane Warne back in time. And he goes, well, the real disappointing thing about this is that no one's asked me if I want to play. That's good old Richie. Now, we've mentioned some of the younger guys that Australia are trying to blood. This is their opportunity to stake a claim into the Test team. Obviously, got youngsters like Renshaw in there, Hanscom, even Joe Burns is around that sort of place somewhere.
Yeah.
Glenn Maxwell probably deserves some sort of involvement.
Not as young as some of the others, but
maybe not.
Bit stiff for him to probably get dropped from the Test team before. And he's still got a good Shield record and he's been scoring lots of runs, so he'd be another one you'd look to include, especially if he can score some runs in the next week or two.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, experience is kind of vital as well. As much as you wanted to blood these youngsters and get them involved in the team, surely runs on the board.
Well, that's what the coaches said. That's what Justin Langer said. He said the currency is runs,
not potential,
and being a good bloke. But the currency is runs. So if you're making runs, then that's who they're gonna look at. So I'm guessing that wouldn't matter if you're 35 or 25 or 15 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You'd like to think though that you'd have to so making runs, so it's not just one score. And you look at the potential. You want to make sure that you're making more. You're putting some back-to-back scores together.
Yeah, definitely.
You're in some good form. You're hitting the ball well. You don't want to just make one score and go, we'll put him in because he's going okay. Because that can sometimes some guys will flourish on that, and they were always destined to be a great player. Some guys are going to take a bit more time, and that's going to ruin them a bit, Nick Madison style.
Yeah,
put him in and. He's never really been the same again. So you need to look at the guys you're going to pick if you're going to do that. I'll be looking at guys like Renshaw. I think he should probably be back in.
Khawaja?
Uz is a big key for us. So hopefully he is fit. His record at home, his Test record at home, is very good. So you want him in. Aaron Finch did a great job in the UAE. So you're hoping that he can. Continue that at the top of the order, but you need to look at guys like I think Penn Hanscom's in better form. His game is slightly different, but he's playing better with that. I think he's going forward more than he was last year when he tended just to go back a lot and was just getting out. But he is going forward enough. He's much stiller at the crease, I think, and he's playing much better. So I think he's certainly one to look at.
Yeah, well, India's attack's probably a lot closer to Pakistan's than South Africa's.
Yeah.
And that'll be pretty familiar territory for him when he scored all those 50s and made all those runs before that tour away and the games against South Africa.
Yeah. And, Pete has played some good innings for Australia away. So, in India, like that, I think Sean Marsh should be in the team.
Yeah.
Look, he is polarising, but when you watched him on Sunday in that one-day game, when he gets it right, he's one of our best batters in the country. He does things. He makes things look very easy. Driving, his cover drive is superb, and his pull shots are just, as a bloke that only has a pull shot, I mean, they are fantastic. So
don't bowl short to Stu if you play him.
No, please do. Please bowl short. Please bowl short.
Look, we've concentrated fairly heavily there on the batsman, and the scoring runs is the currency and not potential to score runs. Wickets obviously are important too. They generally say that you look at a team's bowling lineup to see who's going to be the stronger team. Australia's bowling lineup is pretty strong. You got Pat Cummins, you got Mitchell Starc, you got Josh Hazlewood, Gary Lyon, Nathan Lyon, +1. Now, could that be Mitch Marsh?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure Mitch's bowling. I mean, Mitch's bowling is pretty straightforward. It's pretty up and down, to be fair.
Yeah.
He might bowl it. He might sometimes bowl it at 140s, but it's just straight up and down. So world class players are just gonna eat that up.
I Is there anyone on the sort of periphery that you
you
think probably should be involved? That
well,
isn't
I'm
at the
thinking.
moment?
Well, I'm thinking maybe. I think you could look at Marcus Stoinis.
Okay.
His bowling in the one-day games has been very good. He's sometimes been our best bowler. Generally, something happens when he's playing as well. When he's involved in the game, there is something happening, and sometimes you need that. His batting is quite good too. I mean, again, he played quite well in that partnership with Sean Marsh on in that last one-day game. So he's a. I think their records. There's not much. I don't know if there's too much between their records and such. Mitch has probably scored a few more first-class hundreds.
Yeah.
But unfortunately doesn't do that consistently enough. I'm not sure if he's probably more. I would think he'd be better just concentrating on trying to become a better batsman.
Yeah.
Rather than the bowling. He doesn't. If he could bowl, if he was an Andy Flintoff style, that would be superb. He could bowl at 140s, but he can move the ball. He can do something with it. That'd be great. Whenever I've seen him bowl, not a lot goes on.
Yeah.
It's pretty much straight up and down. Nothing happens.
Yeah, but someone like Flintoff is your once-in-a-generation player. I think looking at that team, you've got to pick a guy to bat number 6. And you've got to pick the 6th best batsman who's available.
Yeah,
to probably bat number 6.
The thing with Flintoff as well, and he's my hero when it comes to cricket in terms of I try to model my game on him, try and bowl as fast as I can and try and hit the ball as hard as I can. It doesn't always work. Flintoff's would be the first to argue that his stats would suggest he's not a great. He doesn't even think he's a great at the game. However, he was that game-changing, moment changer. I think he got I think it was 5 Test match hundreds and only 2 fifers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One against the West Indies. 3 fifers. So one against West Indies in 2004 and 2 against Australia. One in 05 at the Oval and 09 at Lords, which we all know about.
So I think that might be. So that's sort of maybe that Marcus Stoinis.
Yeah, that's Stoinis sort of appeal.
That's where we think the Marcus Stoinis is going to be.
Yeah, because he's a good athlete. He's a good fielder. His batting will get better. His bowling is okay, but something happens when he's involved, and he wants to be involved.
He'll empty the bars
in the game. Yeah, so something happens. So whether or not, he may not always. Yeah, look, it may not always work. Like Flintoff, it didn't always work with Freddie, but sometimes, maybe if there's that, you need that partnership to be broken or something needs to happen. He's sort of the guy that looks like would want to do it and can do it.
Yeah, and that would be a regular thing with Flintoff. He'd empty the bars at cricket grounds so you can go and see what he's going to do.
Yeah.
When Stoinis came in, or when I first saw him last year, I thought he could be along that ilk.
Yeah.
He'd be very, very good. Perhaps the viewers and the listeners can let us know what they think of the upcoming summer. Once again, those handles at Kingsgrove Sports Centre on Facebook, Twitter at Kingsgrove Sport, Instagram at Kingsgrove Sports. Use that hashtag KSC Podcast and tell us what you think. Perhaps, I'll tell you what, boys, let's go with a prediction and a standout player. Andrew?
For India, I reckon probably 2-all. And I reckon Josh Hazlewood's going to be the standout player for Australia. His bowling is going to be pretty key to try and tie up a batsman and also take wickets early in the innings. Sri Lanka, I think, will probably beat Sri Lanka 2-0. And I'm just hoping for a good team effort there. I reckon everyone will get around it and put their hands up. No discredit to Sri Lanka, but certainly not as much pomp and circumstance around the India tour. Yeah.
Pomp and circumstance. And Stu, how about yourself?
Well, like I said, I am crossing everything I can cross and hoping that it's Australia 2-1. Just so that we have some positivity and we play some good cricket. Stand-up performance, I think. Hopefully there'll be a few. Hopefully, it probably needs to be more of a team effort from Australia at the moment. But I'm thinking that Pat Cummins will probably have a big summer. He's obviously a wonderful player, and now hopefully he's sort of over those injuries. He can show his full potential. So I think he'll go well. Like Andrew, we should beat Sri Lanka. Might have been nice maybe if we could play Sri Lanka first. That could have been handy if the Sri Lanka Test matches were first. That could have been might have been good for us just in terms of our preparation. But obviously Sri Lanka are playing England at the moment, so the schedule probably wouldn't work out for that. So, but we should beat Sri Lanka 2-0 hopefully.
Fair enough. Alrighty, for what it's worth, I do actually want Australia to win. I'll put it out there. However, my prediction is that it's going to be 2-1 to India. And purely based on the fact that it's India a possible winning series, I will have to say that standout would be Virat Kohli. I don't think that Pujara will be too far behind. I think he's just got that. There's something about his batting which I think will go well over here.
How do you question with that notice? How do you think the young 18-year-old opener will go? He's got 100 on debut.
The Indian.
Yeah, the Indian opener.
Yeah, the next generation.
Next generation. Yeah. No.
What was his name?
I'm gonna say he might struggle.
Yeah, I think someone might get under his
with a
skin.
bit more. Well, I'm just thinking with a bit more bounce. He's very attacking. But obviously playing that in India, he was playing against the West Indies as well, which sadly.
Prithvi Shaw, is this person?
Yeah.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yep, I think that's him. Yeah. So
I mean, he's saying that right.
Scored 100 on debut, which was great for him, and they've obviously sort of took him up. I'm pretty sure he's in the squad.
Youngest Indian to hit debut Test century.
Yeah.
Look, it's a baptism of fire, really, isn't it? Coming as an 18-year-old to face the pace and bounce of Australian wickets with Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood to a certain extent as well.
Just wondering if they could have maybe picked a few more experienced guys that have been here before. You know, Shikadawan, for example. I'm not sure if Murali Vijay's in the squad or not.
I think he played against England.
He played one or two against him. He had trouble with the straightish delivery from James Anderson, I think, most of the time. But so maybe, obviously maybe not in great form, but they've gone with this young kid, so it'd be interesting to see how he goes playing on bouncier wickets and being very attacking against our bowling lineup.
Look, I don't know. I think it'll be a bit of a baptism of fire for him. I don't think he's going to be prolific. I think he'll go well. I don't think he's going to bang out hundreds for fun like a Kohli could or a Steve Smith could. Obviously, Steve Smith not involved. We know that. I'm just using it as a comparison.
Yeah.
I don't know. He might average sort of 20 or 30 in the series, which is solid. Solid, but it's not. It's not.
That will get you a spot in the Australian cricket team, though.
Well, yeah. Well, that and an Australian passport, I guess. Still working on it.
Him through.
With the test against Sri Lanka, look, I can't look past the 2-0 to Australia as well. They're currently 1-0 down to England, and in the middle of the second test. That test could go either way. As we record this, England were struggling at 220 for 9, but got to 280 all out.
Yeah.
Sam Curran absolutely teed off. Hit 6 sixes and 1 4.
He's a decent cricketer.
He's a very decent cricketer, him and his brother, Tom Curran. And Sri Lanka were 26 for 1 in reply at the close at the end of day 1. I think England will win that test match and subsequently the series. England are currently, I'd say, a stronger test team than Australia without Smith and Warner.
Yeah.
And to win away from home, when we've just said at the start of this show that historically England and Australia struggle in the subcontinent. England are not the strongest team out there. So for us to win in the subcontinent or go 2-0 up, as I think we're going to do, I may be proved wrong by that and have all the people on hashtag KSC podcast saying, But I think that sort of speaks volumes as to where Sri Lankan cricket is at as well at the moment.
Yeah.
Without your Sangakaras, your Jayawardners, your Muralis, and those sort of people. Harath is obviously just retired as well from that first game. I can't look past a 2-0 for Australia in the Test series. I'm not going to give a prediction on the T20s and the one-days because...
Yeah, it could go either way.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, doesn't. Not anywhere near as much as the Test matches do. Alrighty, well, thank you, boys, for those predictions. Now, we mentioned at the top of the show a different topic.
That thing on your face.
That thing on my face. Now, in Australia, there are two pretty big charitable movements, shall we say, regarding men's health and women's health. In January, it's the McGrath Foundation and the Pink Test Match, and everyone gets around that for breast cancer research and getting the nurses out into the hospitals where they need it. November is where men grow big, dirty handlebar moustaches or just facial hair in general. So I'm not raising any for doing this, but I am in support of Pat McGregor, who is our assistant manager at the Penrith store. He has got a target of $550, and as we stand in the middle of November, he's raised $295 so far. So this is in support of him. Also, my brother-in-law is doing it as well. get on over and donate, please, to Movember. It's a great cause around men's health. It's a topic that we are going to explore and delve deeper into in future episodes. We'll put a link in the bio and possibly across your screen or something like that.
For Pat's thing, doesn't Pat have a website?
He does. I've got it on screen here. Not that it's a help to the listeners.
That's all right. We'll put the links all over. Anywhere we post this, we'll put the link up.
So if you go mobro.co/Pat McGregor, it's a great cause. It's well worth it. Let's help him get to his target of 550 and blast through it. A couple of weeks to go. That's something that we should really all hook into and get around.
Yeah. Have you thought about just trimming the sides off, Stu? Or have you? That's too much hard work.
Not too much hard work. A couple of guys at the cricket club sort of said, "Oh, look, if we could raise some money, would you shave it off?" And I said, "Well, yeah, if you do, but
I reckon you could probably just take the chin off, dude, and you could.
No, I mean, I don't.
You could do like a Lemmy Kilmister, like a Motorhead type.
Yeah, I don't understand why it has to look horrible though.
What are you trying to say?
It's like grow a moustache. Okay, yeah, we can do that. You didn't say grow a horrible moustache. Just try and make yourself look like
attention grabbing.
Well, look, it is attention grabbing. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to lock you into something you just said there. If people raise enough, you would. Shave.
Yeah, you'd have to. Well, we'd have to double Pat's target. If you double Pat's target, if we get to
what if I try and start? What if I try and start?
If we get to 1,100, but I mean, it's fine. I can
what if I tried to start some of the social media? How many likes or retweets or whatever would it take?
No, we need to. No, we want to get some cash.
You want that? Well, you want it to be.
It's got to go to a good cause. We want to make it. It's a good cause. So.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look into that for sure. Gents, is there any other topics, cricket related or other sport related, that you'd like to talk about? Obviously, Premier League is good. NRL's finished, obviously, so we've got no rugby league to talk about.
I'll wait to talk about the Premier League till after it's done, and depending on where Liverpool end up, I'll discuss it then.
Well, go on.
We're going okay, but
touching wood.
It's November. We'll wait till much later. Well, look. To be fair, everybody's playing for second position. I think anyway. City's miles out in front. So
well, as we record this, where are Liverpool in the table?
Second.
No, they're top, aren't they?
No, I thought City.
I thought
City. No, I think we might have. But City won the other day, so I thought
they went
back in front. So
well, Liverpool are up there.
But again, like I said, it's only November. We've been here before, and
it's a long season.
It's gone horribly wrong later in the season. So I'll wait till later on. And
Andrew, where do your football loyalties lie?
I don't follow football a huge amount. I briefly gloss over Everton's record, but not so much.
Not so much. So what is it with you two in the city of Liverpool? Their grounds are from here to the other side of this building, away from each other.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't support Everton. I support Liverpool because as a youngster, Craig Johnson was playing for Liverpool, so there was an Australian connection. So, and it was whenever you saw highlights, not because it wasn't promoted that well back in that time, but you always saw highlights of him playing, and he was Australian, so I went for him because they were also winning as well. So
fair enough too. So how did you come across Everton?
You watch some highlights, you see a team win, you go, "Oh, that looks cool."
and
then a few years later, they don't win so much.
There's an Australian connection.
Yeah,
with Tim Cahill
played there as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I can't think of an Australian connection at my club. My club doesn't naturally come from where I'm from either. If we were going to support the club that I was born closest to, I'd be a Borussia Mönchengladbach fan.
Ah, yes.
Oh, yeah.
They're underrated.
Good team.
Yeah. Well,
on the up.
They've won more European Cups than my team anyway. So so my mum's from Devon. My dad's from between Manchester and Liverpool. I grew up in Oxfordshire, so naturally I support Tottenham. Don't know why.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, no, we're going okay at the
moment.
We're
going okay. You've got a Champions League spot there at the moment. So
yeah, ahead of Arsenal is the more important thing.
Well,
no, it's not more important. We should have higher ambitions than that. Not just
I don't know. I think
that's how it goes.
Isn't it for you? Isn't no? Just as long as you beat Arsenal, then it's been okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, they've got this thing where, and unfortunately, they got to celebrate it for something like 21 years in a row, on the day where Arsenal are mathematically not able to be passed in the league by Tottenham. They have something called St. Totteringham's Day. And that frustrates me because I had to listen to it for 21 years in a row. And 2 years ago when we finally finished above them, we didn't have anything because
just not used to it.
We don't have that kind of tradition. But anyway, coming back to the cricket, it's going to be an interesting summer. I think there's potential for it to be huge. We mentioned earlier about the media and how they market it. look, I'm not a massive fan of what they've come out with after the review.
You don't want to come dream with them?
I'm awake. I don't need to dream.
Well, yeah, I think we'll leave the players packed to one side.
That's inside the dressing room. That's fine.
I understand maybe where they were trying to go with that, but it was sort of poorly put together. So I mean, I'm hoping maybe the players put that together so some marketing company didn't do it, because I wouldn't pay them because it's terrible.
Yeah.
Not that I'm great at marketing, but it's just I wouldn't be signing up for that. All the the elite honesty and things like that. That's sort of up to.
It's
It's
noble.
an interesting. It's noble, but I think we don't want to. We sort of maybe don't want to get too confused about how we play our cricket, and sort of go completely in the opposite direction and be trying to be the nicest people out there.
Yeah, I think that's what you might be in danger of doing by inviting people to come dream with you. I mean, like I remember a few years ago after the 2013 Ashes over in England, where England had won 3-0, and there was a bit of a controversy in the series with Stuart Broad and this, that, and the other. Before you knew it, all of the media, KFC, Chris Stuart, this time they'll face a nation. And they had these posters of the Australian cricket team, backed up by the Australian public in all the attire, and it was like, England, you're not coming to face 11 cricketers, you're coming to face the nation of Australia. KFC turned all of their places green and gold. Psychologically you come in here and you're thinking, oh Christ, we want to just play good, solid, hard cricket. You don't need
thinking about that now, though, hearing you talk about it, that was in response to a loss or something like that?
Yeah, so basically the 2013 Ashes over in England, it was seen that England were going to walk over Australia, and to a certain extent they did, but there was the sort of feeling that Australia were getting better and better, and they were going to come back strong. And there was back-to-back Ashes that year for the first time ever, I think.
Right, well, sorry, go ahead.
And then Stuart Broad in the first test, he hit the ball, it deflected off of Haddon's gloves, I think.
No, didn't he just hit it straight to first slip? I don't think it deflected off anything. I think he just hit it. It was a catching drill.
Yeah, whatever it was, it was definitely out. Okay. Now, to be fair to Michael Clarke, he didn't have a go at Stuart Broad. He was disappointed in the umpiring and the decision for what was blatantly out.
Yeah.
But the Australian public got on to Stuart Broad and said he's a cheat. He's done this, that. Now, let us not forget there have been plenty of Australian cricketers who have hit a ball, been caught, and not walked. So I found that a little bit interesting to watch. And also, they absolutely hammered Stuart Broad. I think the Courier Mail up in Brisbane refused to print his name after that and referred to him as a 27-year-old medium pacer from England.
Yes.
Well, but just to bring it back, you compared that campaign to the Players Pack thing, but it seemed like that seems like it'd be easier to unite the Australian fan base against an external thing, whereas what really spawned this following the review was kind of an internal. A divisiveness within Australia.
You're right.
It sort of serves a different.
You're right, but I was more pointing out the difference in the media attitude towards it.
Whereas I think that plays into it. The fact that one you're trying to unite the Australian fan base against a common opponent versus the opponent in this case sort of being within.
So I think because I think we've sort of got at the moment it's about us wanting to support the men's team, and some people, obviously, your cricket lovers will do it. It's more about probably the people on the outside who are the occasional cricket watchers. They watch it a bit. They like us to go well. Maybe not supporting them as much. And I think that's where they were trying to get this, these players packed in to try and just say, look, hey, we are good guys. Come with us and support us. Yeah. And I just think it sort of fell flat and didn't work that well. I just think it was poorly put together. So. The way to get people to support you is basically with on-field results, and if you play good solid cricket, and I guess you call it the Australian way. The Australian way gets a bit blurred because I think people think that you need to go out there, you need to be abusive. I don't think never been. That's not the Australian way. That's not what it is. It's about playing attacking cricket. Yeah. So setting attacking fields, trying to dominate with the bat, playing attacking cricket. Attacking cricket is not yelling at the bloke from gully.
We've mentioned before that the Australian attitude.
I think that's where it's got a bit blurred. People have thought that's what the Australian way is.
Australian way is harsh and aggressive.
But I'm thinking that's what the people in the Australian cricket team thought the Australian way was. And I'm thinking of a former coach and a former player. That's not the Australian way.
No,
there's fine. I mean, because this whole sledging bit in Australia, we've spoken about this before, since that Australia cops all the flack for sledging, I'm sure every other team
Absolutely.
says it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can't say that they are completely quiet on the field and don't say anything. So, we sometimes get a bit of a bad rap for that, but I think as long as we play good, attacking, positive cricket, then, some results are going to go away. Sometimes they're not going to go away other times, but I think that will get the public on side and enjoy watching this team play.
I think the subject of sledging would be a great topic for a future show that we should maybe look into, and the attitudes for different countries around it, and how soft some of the countries are. And I'm looking at England for that, because look, we are easily offended. Look at I've had sledging in England and Australia. Obviously, it just seems that in Australia, as I mentioned in a previous show, someone can be sledging the absolute hell out of you, but then after the game's over, have a beer and whatever.
Yeah.
In England, they'll take it far more personally, and they don't want to talk to you ever again.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, cricket's just a game.
Cricket's just a game.
You got to play it hard and attacking, but at the end of the day, it's just a game.
It's got to be fair.
Yeah.
Tough but fair. Well, gents, I think that pretty much covers what we need to speak about, really. Once again, those handles: Facebook at Kingsgrove Sports Centre, Instagram at Kingsgrove Sports, Twitter at Kingsgrove Sport. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube, and don't forget to use that hashtag KSC Podcast. Thank you for joining us, Andrew.
Thanks a lot for having me.
No worries. We'll see you again. Thank you, Stu.
Thank you, Charlie.
And producer Nick.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening in. We appreciate it.